Hi everyone. Today I'm going to continue on with my series of films from 1972. I think this will be maybe my 33rd or 34th movie that I've covered in single title videos from 1972. So this is part of the crime movies from 1972, and this is FUZZ. And this is a movie that was directed by Richard Cola. It stars Burt Reynolds, Jack Weston, Tom Skerritt, Raquel Welch, Yul Brynner. It's quite a cast. This is before Reynolds became a big star. I think this is the movie right before Deliverance, which did make him a star. And the cover is somewhat misleading because we do not see Raquel Welch, who has a very small role in this movie, in a bikini, or do we see Burt Reynolds in his classic Playgirl pose? We do get a shot, a beefcake shot in the locker room with Reynolds, but it is a kind of uneasy mix between comedy and violence, and it's based on a novel by Evan Hunter. Actually, Ed McBain, and was the name that he used for his 87th Precinct novels. He wrote a ton of them. I think this one was written around 1968, and they all have that mixture of comedy, violence, and the comedy focuses on the ineptness of the police. This is a deromanticized version of the police. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. The novel has a great momentum to it, so the uneasy mix of violence and comedy, kind of works pretty good. There's so many elements of reality to it. The police are always short of manpower. They have to do this, they have to do that. In police movies today, it just automatically appears, but in 1972 at least, it was a struggle to do things with the kind of exact proficiency that we're used to in police dramas nowadays. And it's very much an ensemble piece, as are Ed McBain's novels. Great supporting cast throughout. We have stars. At least Burt Reynolds would become a star, and Raquel Welch and Yul Brynner. But there's so many characters and so many different little scenes that just are there because they create the ambiance of what a police station would be like. And you would recognize so many of them: James McKeechan, Peter Bonaires, who a couple years after this would play the dentist in the Bob Newhart show, and many actors that had or had already had a long career in TV, as did Tom Skerritt and Burt Reynolds. And we have, not only do we have an ensemble cast, we have sort of an ensemble bunch of storylines, the main one being an extortionist who has some sort of strange plan that he's killing off town officials in order to reap a bigger payday down the road. And the detectives in the 87th Precinct soon realize that this is a deaf man who has masterminded plots against them in the past, and especially against the 87th Precinct. There's very much a need to target the 87th Precinct because of these past events in this series. So he wants to torment the 87th Precinct. So that's the main plot. But then they're on the search for a rapist that involves the Raquel Welch detective. They discover a holdup that they think might be part of this plans for a holdup. Drunks being set on fire. There's one scene where Burt Reynolds, posing as a drunk in order to capture whoever is doing this, is set on fire. And boy, it's a frightening looking scene. And Burt Reynolds, being a stuntman, he performed that stunt himself, and other stunts. I think the director, Richard Cola, says in the commentary that every time there was an opportunity to do a stunt, Reynolds would say, you know, let me do this, let me jump over this fence and take a tumble, or let me jump over this car. So then, and all the storylines converge. In the book, it's a bit far-fetched, but it has much more detail as books can go into. The details in the movie are a little bit fuzzy in this convergence on the ending. The movie really benefits from its Boston setting. So we see a lot of the location photography and the outdoor scenes were set in Boston, but then a lot were set back on the studio lot. I think they were shooting on the Universal lot, and or Fox. I think it was Fox. And the set design by Jack Hilliard, especially of the police station, the messiness of it, and it's a giant. It's like a theater stage, and characters are everywhere, and there's different little anecdotes going on here and there, all involving these great character actors. And we learned that some of this stuff the dialogue itself was improvised, and then we have the station is being painted, and there's two painters from maintenance department who are totally oblivious to being afraid of policemen. Oh, I'm not in your department. They're just creating havoc in this police station, and all this is really captured well. And the low light cinematography by Jacques. I can't remember, is it Jacques Marcan or something like that, who is an expert at low light cinematography. So he really gets to do that well. There's quite a few scenes in this film where you see a really good example of low light cinematography, especially in the 1970s. These films from 1972, anybody who is a fan of movies from this era, you know it has a very specific and visual look to it. There's a David Grusin score. It's very jazzy. It's very good. And Grusin would go on to, he scored many movies and had some very famous, successful jazz albums as well later on. I have to talk a little bit about Evan Hunter, Ed McBain, in the 87th Precinct. Evan Hunter had quite a career. He wrote the screenplay for The Blackboard Jungle. He wrote the screenplay for The Birds. And in the 87th Precinct novels, we get a sort of anti-liberal law enforcement outlook, which would probably be consistent with the policemen at the time. So in the book, we get a whole lot on reading criminals their rights. The Miranda Law was a big issue in 1972, and how it was hampering the police. So this is an outlook that's taken up throughout the novel, but McBain writes great dialogue, and like I say, the momentum of his movies are really quite, or of his novels are quite extraordinary. It was about 200 pages. I read it in one day. I couldn't put it down. I had read some 87th Precinct novels before. Now it's not Boston in the novels, and I thought it was New York City, but none of the landmarks are called any of the landmarks from New York City, and I think it's Isolde or something. But it has a New York City feel to it for sure. And then we'll talk a little bit about Richard Cola, who was the director, and there's a commentary with him with a filmmaker, Elijah Drenner. I looked up his filmography. I think he has something like 631 credits for editing, and he also directed, but basically documentary shorts. And he, a fan of the movie, obviously, and he and Richard Cola are together. Now Cola, this is I think from 2016. So Cola was looking back, about 45 years before, but it's a struggle to get Cola to talk about, to provide stories. He's constantly being prompted, and we get one sentence per responses. But there's nevertheless some interesting things in the commentary, and one of them was that he objected to shooting these scenes of drunken men while sleeping in an alleyway being set on fire. And he went to the studio and said, you know, this is I don't really want to shoot that. No, you know, you shoot it. Just go and shoot it. And he was a director for hire. He did not, you know, he mostly on television. I think he only has a few feature film credits. This may have been his first feature film credit. I think Zigzag, or this one, Zigzag with George Kennedy. So we had to shoot it, but then we learned that when FUZZ was shown on TV, I believe it was in Boston, that there was a copycat crime committed in the same way, where some homeless person had gasoline thrown on her and set on fire. And Cola says how distressed, you know, he obviously was, because he hadn't wanted those scenes in there in the first place. So Cola, very prolific director. If you've seen, if you watch TV a lot from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, you're probably going to have seen some movies, TV movies, or episodes of TV series. He was asked what he's most famous for, and he responded, Battlestar Galactica. He actually directed the pilot feature-length movie of Battlestar Galactica. So overall, a great picture of the 1970s. If you like especially if you like to look at all these supporting actors, it's got some really good comedy in here. Burt Reynolds and Jack Weston make a comic team that looks very similar to Reynolds and Dom DeLuise in future, when Reynolds becomes the stars, becomes you know, a big-time movie star. Okay, so thanks a lot for everybody who managed to listen. I do appreciate it. Comments are welcome. Take care.